Saya berbangga untuk mengumumkan bahawa Mosti bukan sahaja telah berjaya melepasi sasaran ini, malah sehingga kini sebanyak 386 produk, teknologi dan perkhidmatan telah berjaya dikomersialkan. Saya ingin mengambil kesempatan ini untuk merakamkan ucapan tahniah kepada semua. I'm very impressed by our local technology. There's a range of technology here, from chemical-based technology for water purification to creating cup lamp-based roads, all the way up to technologies in virtual reality, robotic arms, and also using sensor technology.
Saya berbangga untuk mengumumkan bahawa MOSTI bukan sahaja telah berjaya melepasi sasaran ini, malah sehingga kini sebanyak 386 produk, teknologi dan perkhidmatan telah berjaya dikomersialkan.
Saya ingin mengambil kesempatan ini untuk merakamkan ucapan tahniah kepada semua. I'm very impressed by our local technology. There's a range of technology here, from chemical-based technology for water purification to creating cup lamp-based roads, all the way up to technologies in virtual reality, robotic arms, and also using sensor technology.
Assalamualaikum dan selamat petang. Salam keluarga Malaysia dan terima kasih kerana terus setia bersama kami di platform Maya. Sebelum kita teruskan dengan sesi seterusnya, itu sesi bersama dengan panel, ingin saya ingatkan bahawa Meranti akan mengendalikan sesi Stargazer Mentoring, iaitu sesi one-to-one mentoring oleh pakar dari pelbagai bidang perniagaan kepada individu dan usahawan. Mentor dalam program ini terdiri daripada individu pelbagai latar belakang industri seperti bioteknologi, kejuruteraan, ICT, teknologi hijau dan lain-lain yang mempunyai pemahaman dan pengalaman luas dalam ilmu perniagaan yang diperlukan. Yang ini adalah sesi yang memerlukan pendaftaran awal para peserta. Jadi sesiapa yang telah pun menyertai sesi ini boleh melayari laman web MCY Summit dan seterusnya klik tile Stargazer Mentoring. Dari situ para peserta hanya perlu klik Zoom link dan memasukkan password yang dikemukakan melalui proses pendaftaran. Terima kasih. Seterusnya kita akan bergerak ke sesi panel yang sudah pasti sedang dinantikan oleh anda semua. The Startup2Growth Forum is a sharing session by startup companies who have benefited from Cradle Fund Sendirian Berhad. This session will be touching on the challenges and international marketing plans which are required by every company and startup to become more resilient and achieve continuous growth moving forward. So on that note, we welcome everyone to kindly participate as well, and I would like to introduce you to our moderator and panel. This session will be moderated by Dr. Ng Sing Kwee, the Vice President of Investments and Acting CEO of Cradle Seed Ventures Sendirian Berhad. Our panel include Mr. Giva Kupusamy, founder of GK Aqua Sendirian Berhad, Mr. Justin Chan, founder, manager of Snappy, Mr. Arif Tukiman, Chief Executive Officer of RunCloud Sendirian Berhad, and Mr. Nur Zaki Fernandez, Managing Director of XAir. With that, I shall hand you over to our session chair, Dr. Ng, to take charge of this conversation.
All right. First of all, welcome everyone to this session. The topic of this session today is from Startup2Growth. And on behalf of Cradle, I would like to thank you, the organizing committee, for giving us a chance to actually interview and share a little bit our fellow grant recipient of Cradles and also alumni of Cradle on their experiences from building a startup and then actually growing it together. So with me today, I would like to introduce our distinguished speaker, the man behind every big, nice company, the startup company that we have, yeah? Okay, with me today on my immediate left, I have Mr. Giva Kupusamy, CEO and co-founder of GK Aqua. I have Mr. Justin Chan, co-founder of Snappy's. I have Mr. Arif Tukiman, CEO of RunCloud. And last but not least, at the far end, I have Mr. Zaki, which is the Managing Director of XAir. Okay, as an introduction, I will go around the stage today and then let them introduce themselves. Firstly, about themselves, because in terms of startup world, the founder is very, very important. And of course, an elevated pitch of what their company is doing for the benefit of our listener today. So, Mr. Giva, over to you.
Thanks, Doctor. My name is Giva, professionally trained in biotechnologies. Take up the opportunity in Malaysia with what we know as udang gala, or Malaysia, better known as internationally Malaysian giant freshwater prawn. So when I started the journey in 2008, Udang Galah had a very long history with Malaysia. That is 1960s. Malaysian scientists in Batu Maung Penang is the first person to discover how to breed them in captive. And then in conjunction of the FAO has given a name to Udang Galah as Malaysian giant freshwater prawn. But unfortunately, fast forward 60 years, we are merely importing 90% of what we consume. Indeed, we're supposed to exporting to the world. And this happens to, personally, I took it as a challenge that somebody who's been well educated in that particular field as a subject matter expertise, why not we revive the industry and to show or to prove to the people, especially in biotech industry, that what we learn in the university can be best practiced to make it as an entrepreneurship. So that's where the journey started with us in 2016 with a humble beginning with just 2% in the company. Today we have grown to about 28 staff members. And the struggle, or of course the main aim for us to have a technology easy to scale up, to create more micro entrepreneurs, especially during the pandemic and post-pandemic. Now we are looking at food security as main concern, because we can have money, but we can have buildings, but if you don't have food supply locally, that's going to create a lot of chaos. So this is where we position ourselves as a company who have a knowledge in biotechnology to create and translate those knowledge to become, to produce a sustainable food ecosystem, so that we can produce food in abundance to feed the growing population. Of course, we have to also struggle with changing climate. Climate change is going to be a real thing. As you can see, the weather patterns are changing, and things are moving towards more extremes. So this is, I think, this is where really GK is trying to prove the concept of scaling knowledge base from biotechnology to food security. And I think this pipeline could be later part expanded to other food ecosystem or value chain.
Thank you, Mr. Chiba. Next, Mr. Justin.
Hi everyone, can you guys hear me? Oh good, right? Yeah, my name is Justin, founder and director of Snappy. So Snappy is the first plant-based pea milk in Asia. I know it sounds a little bit weird when you say pea milk, right? But actually, we produce milk out of peas. So a lot of people might ask, like, why we choose pea to make milk. It's simple, because it's one of the most sustainable food sources in the world. And it's also highly nutritious among compared to other crops in the world. So pound for pound, just for perspective, pound for pound, peas emit 500 times less carbon emission than beef, and 15 times less than dairy milk. So it makes it a no-brainer for us to make milk out of peas. So our goal is to, we want to educate the consumers about the benefits of pea, and want to make them embrace peas in their daily diet, so it can have a more sustainable food sources, which comes back to Jiva topic about food security. Yeah. So it needs to be sustainable so we can enjoy and also provide more for our future generation to come. So that's the whole idea of how we started Snappy.
Interesting. Mr. Arif?
Hello, Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Arif Tukiman. I'm the co-founder and CEO at RunCloud. What is RunCloud? So basically RunCloud is a software as a service where it's for a multi-cloud server management panel. It's a control panel to manage multiple cloud servers, like in the cloud computing space, like Amazon Web Service, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, DigitalOcean, and many other clouds in the world. So we started in 2017. Before we started RunCloud, basically I have my own software house companies. So we develop multiple projects for governments, for private sectors. But the problem is when it's come to deployments, multiple project deployments, server management is always chaotic, and it's very problematic for us. So basically we developed RunCloud to solve our own needs problem internally. And then we launched it in 2017 into Malaysian community. And right now, today, 4 years plus, running the company, we receive more than 60,000 users across 100 plus countries, where basically our subscribers are coming from mainly in the UK, US and India. Right now, in terms of active deployments in RunCloud, we almost have 1 million websites in the world. So we've been recognized and nominated by W3 Tech's survey in the site, which is a Web Panel of the Year 2021 last year. Thank you. That's all.
Last but not least, Mr. Zaki.
Thank you, Doctor. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Zaki Fernandez. I am from this company called XAir. We are predominantly a telecommunication company, but have ventured into cross industries and cross fields, namely ICT, big data analytics, and right now renewable energy. So we currently have a patent of a new method of generating electricity. So currently, we are, if I'm not mistaken, still the only power generator manufacturer in Malaysia. Our method can actually save fuel consumption by up to 40%. And currently, XAir has presence not just in Malaysia, but we also have offices in Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and have businesses in Myanmar, Cambodia, and Vietnam. But post-pandemic, we had to shut down offices and operations in Singapore and Thailand, but maybe 2022 may be a good turning point for all of us. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Hopefully, yeah. Okay, thank you for all the introduction. Now, let's start our session with the very first question. I want to bring our startup here back to the moment that they started. Yeah, now you are ahead, but then I want to bring you back a little bit, like, for the listener out there who are inspired to be a startup, right, to run their own business, the very key thing is to find a product market fit, right? If I can bring you back to when you first started, how was the experience like, and how long does it really take, you guys take, in terms of finding the fit, the market fit of your particular product, right? There's a lot of good ideas out there. There's a lot of product out there. But then to find the fit is the key in making a real business out of it. Yeah. So to be fair, I started with you. Now I will go all the way to the back, Mr. Zaki. What was your experience in finding a product market fit, and how long does it take you in order to come to that stage?
Well, one word sums it all, and the word is painful.
Okay.
So it was a very long process, but I think I can vouch for my other panelists over here. We've got to be persistent and resilient, and finding the proper feed, I would say, is always to identify the problem statement. We must be very clear with what problem you're trying to address. And when you have that clarity, then the solution would be easier to solve. Without clarity of the problem statement. So many times my advice will always be, spend some time to understand the problem that you're trying to solve, and the solutions, it can be modified, it can be changed along the way, but understanding the problem always remains. So spend some time to understand the problem statement.
So it's about the clarity of that the market, right? Like, you really focus it from the market coming into your solution. Correct. Rather than, I have a solution, I want to push it to the market. Mr. Arif, do you have anything to yes. share?
Thank you, Mr. Doctor. And it's a very good point from Mr. Zaki as well. So what I see in terms of the go-to market or the market fit, as a startup founders, you need to believe that the moment you into the process is very important, where the go-to market fit process is a must, and it's a need to be done at the first stage, early stage, right? And you need to believe that it won't be success at the first level. Even RunCloud, before RunCloud, our brand before RunCloud is web WHOP.io, with a web hosting panel, and it didn't work, all right? I just want to focus more into where startup founders, they are keen or more attracted to develop products and features and a lot more, right? Yeah. To make it, I can develop products so customers gonna love it, all right? So what I see and the mistakes that I have been for the past 5 years, all right, we need to fall in love not in the products, but we need to fall in love in the customers' feedbacks and customers' experience and the customers' problem. So I remember the moment we launched RunCloud, the first version of RunCloud in the TM Convergence Center in KL, 800 developers communities, where we received 300 signups. So I try to engage and try to learn from those 300 meetups, and even after that, we didn't go into mass marketings like digital marketings. We even until right now, what we done it for the past 3 years, I travel more than 20 cities around the world. I went to New York, I went to London just to understand the customers and their mindset, because it's very different. So by meeting them, meeting our customers, our prospects, understand well, it will make your product more impactful, and the user experience is far more important than basically your product at the first place and the idea. All right, that's all.
So it's really about understanding the market and take the time to really study what is needed out there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, Mr. Justin,
I think,
how about your
that's
experience?
a very good point, because like understanding the market is very, very important, because you need to know whether your solution is applicable to the market. Because if the market is not ready, if you have a solution that the problem is not existing yet in that market, that's pointless, because you're not solving a problem that is already in the market. So so in order to start a business or whatsoever, you want to solve a problem, you need to know whether your solution is really relevant to the consumers that you want to target. So another point I also want to point out is, I think from Arif's experience, like a lot of times, the first product that we launch is always not the perfect product. That's fine, because you need to launch first and improvise based on your customer feedback and experience. So that's how we find the product market fit, in the sense that the product has to be dependent on what the market react. So the feedback from customer will always tell you what to improve. If you don't launch a product, you try to perfect your products before you launch it, right? So a lot of time we spend too much time perfecting it, and we are not. You will spend too much time, and all of the things that you think about is all assumption before you launch it. So in my experience, I would say launch it first. A good enough product, don't have to be perfect, but it has to be good enough. It has to be something you are proud of. You launch it, then you get the customer feedback, face-to-face or through like email, survey or whatsoever. You get the feedback and you improve from there. So that's how we eventually pivot and improve our products to match the fit to the market. So that would be our approach.
So in conclusion, it will be like there is no perfect product for you to push out.
There is always better solution to the problem. So you always have to be improved.
Push it out.
Yes.
And then you study your market and
Correct.
see whether, okay. Mr. Jiva.
All right, so for us, I think marketing is really not a major challenge per se, because we are importing 60 billion ringgit worth of food annually, and Malaysia is well known for the highest seafood per capita consumption. So our tagline, everyone can enjoy udang galah, i.e. available, affordable price and availability. So the biggest challenge, of course, when first I started the journey is the financials, because when we go to investors, they always look down at you and say, hey, look, this is all available cheap from Thailand, from Bangladesh, we just can import that. So why do you really think that this business is as a go? But of course, I often these people label me as arrogant. I said that if I don't do something about this, always people say, oh, this is the stakeholders, is the government institution or research institutions from the government institutions supposed to be doing the R&D and development in terms of biotechnology. So for me, I took it as a challenge. I said, and another criticism often we get is aquaculture is like 24/7 jobs. Earlier we were talking that there's no such thing as work from home in our field of thing, because the prawns need to be fed, they have to be groomed, they have to be taken care. So in nutshell, capacity development was a challenge because the talents were not readily available. So we have to have enough money to pay them well as well. So this is all chicken and egg story. You don't have a revenue, you can't hire people. So at the same time, you don't have people, you can't build the organization. So in that perspective, of course, we have to thank a couple of funding institutions locally, Platform, and then after that we move on to Cradle, and of course now we're on the ECF platform. So in a nutshell, I think capacity development in the field of biotechnology, I think is what we are all craving for. Because when I graduated those days, we can only go and sell a PCR machine. We don't utilize the machine to do things. But now we're glad that such a very small company like us, we are making world-renowned research, like especially recently we just published the genome of Udangala, first in the world. So being a very small company, I think talent is what I really focus and enjoy building it more so that the entire ecosystem it can be more sustainable in many ways.
So in other words, is having the capacity to really, the technical capacity to do what you wanted to do is key in making sure that you are able to bring at least the minimum thing up to the market, right? Okay. Now, since that you have a market fit, you tested it, market kind of like it, you get feedback out of it. Now, what will be the next step, right? Once you have a product, it fits, what are the challenges? Let's talk about local market first. What are the challenges that the gentleman, all the gentlemen here face in gaining the first few traction locally? Can you share a little experience on that? I will start with Justin.
Okay, I think because as mentioned, we are the first pea milk in Asia, right? So being the first means that you need to do the education and marketing because people are not aware of it and they don't know what to expect when they consume pea milk. They never tried before, they have no idea about the taste of it. So definitely there a lot of education needs to be done, but because we do observe increasing awareness of like plant-based food because it's more sustainable, it's good for the food security concern. So that awareness is there, but because we are offering a better option, a new option to the consumers, definitely we will need to do a lot of education and a lot of sampling for people to try it out and tell them about why peas are better option for us to make milk out of it. So yeah, I think it's just a chicken and egg thing. If you want to be the first, you need to do the education. And because I'm sure that all of the startup founders, they are very innovative. Whatever solution they provide is most likely will be the first in the market. So being the first means that you need to do the hard work to educate and tell them, actually, you have a better option for your for the consumer's problem that we are solving. So that would be the biggest challenge for us.
So it's about educate, I mean, you're the first one to the market. You, of course, normally when we look into cases to either for us to invest or for us to fund, we will always make sure that, okay, is the market awareness is there, or are you the first one? Do you have the first first mover advantage? But as what you shared just now, being a first mover advantage is also a challenge in terms of educating your customer. Arif, do you have that similar experience in terms of marketing your product?
Challenges is always there. Unlike Justin, it's like you being a first mover in the market, and it's actually quite challenging. RunCloud is a purely software, and our solution is not new in the market, right? In the global scale. In Malaysia, yes, maybe I'm not sure who are our direct competitors in Malaysia, but we trying to be global since day one we developed RunCloud, because we believe that these solutions is a need for developers and businesses out there, because cloud computing, the public cloud spending from international data corporations, they said that the spending is over $500 billion every year. So we see that one of the big challenge in RunCloud, since we are local and from Malaysia, we started develop the product in Johor. I'm from Johor, Skudai. It's the mentality, right? It's software. Local used to be put a trust whenever software, US, Europe. And our software is very critical because businesses rely our product because it's all about the business continuity because your system deploy in cloud. And we are a software to manage your clouds and your applications. So they need to make sure that, okay, can I trust one cloud to manage my server and my system? So there is the big challenges where we need to be at the global since day one and try to, the first strategy since 2017, we're trying to be global look where we receive, even there's a lot of challenges where a lot of US Brazilians users chat in the chat room, in website, the chat room, hey, I love your product. I try and then try to recommend my friends and my friends also love it. Then they said to me, I try to propose to subscribe your product and suddenly we just realized that you are from Malaysia. So sorry, I don't subscribe. So for this, I think 6 to 12 months, we quite that is the big challenge because how we can gain the trust on our products. So the trust. Positioning, right? It's all about the positioning since day one. So we have our RunCloud Global Ambassadors. We do our own RunCloud meetups, do the educations like Justin. So from there, when they see that, okay, the CEO is on ground, then they started to trust, okay, this is the legit company. Something like that.
So it's pretty much education, as what Justin said, and then gaining the trust of your customer. Zaki, is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, for us it's a little different because XAir has always been a telecommunication company and we've been a fairly okay size for many, many years now. But then when we ventured into renewable energy, suddenly we are a prawn in a big ocean now. We're a very small organization in a much bigger industry. Now, the issue we have is opportunity, an opportunity to prove your worth. So what we had to do is, for us, for energy, in the energy industry, it's valid for various different industries. You have energy in agriculture, you have energy in military, you have energy in oil and gas. But we stuck to what we know best. We stuck towards our core, which is telecommunication. So first and foremost, we try to get opportunities within our reach. So which is the telecommunication industry. So it, like I mentioned earlier, it was a very painful experience to get that because like what Arif mentioned, a lot of people out there are skeptical, specifically about Malaysian tech. So many times when we give a pitch, we give a presentation, one of the very first few questions they will ask is, Zakia, where do you get this technology from? So I have to scroll back the slide and show we actually built this ourselves and all that. And they still don't get it. It's a bit hard for them to fathom that something like this can come from Malaysia. So my next step is actually to give them a POC, a proof concept. I say, okay, look, I'll do it. I'll run it for you for free for 30 days, you know, no obligation, no whatsoever. You do it. I'll put it there. I'll show you the before and after. But after we are successful, then we get into a contract. So getting the opportunity was the biggest hurdle for us, and getting into a POC, a proof of concept, was our means to overcome this. That's it.
So it's about getting the first few opportunity to prove yourself.
Exactly, exactly.
Mr. Jiva.
So yeah, so I think it summarizes the colleagues here. When we first started, when we tell the farmers, like we got Ferrari, right? And we need the racer to win the race. So we are the Ferrari producer. So our seats like Ferrari. But of course, for farmers to believe the technology can become just male seats alone, you know, it's a crazy technology. You make the male become neo-females, you put them in males, and then they give offspring, so all male. So it's quite biotechnology process. And the hurdle is the farmer got to take care of this prawn culture for 4 months. right? So 4 months, and all these farmers are traditional farmers in Malaysia, and they all like to wait and see. So for us to gain traction, of course, time was really critical. And of course, for farmers, but once they see that, and that's where the word of mouth go around. So that was the best marketing tool. Obviously, until today, whenever we meet new farmers, when we tell them the opportunities it has, they say, okay, I got this piece of land, but I want to try 1 pond first. So that, obviously, as if we are gifted with a lot of money, we say, give you free sample, you know, you can try it, and then if you're good, then we'll scale this up. But unfortunately, we can't. We have to sell every beads we produce. So pivoting towards that argument of how better is our product. So this is where our services comes. So that means the sales after service after sales. For instance, all our seeds are certified disease-free, you know, then our team goes to the farm and look at the water qualities to ensure that the farmers are adhering to the best optimal SOPs, which we have to provide them at no cost. So this is where, again, in a nutshell, we have to gain the trust, and it doesn't happen overnight. Yep. So that's the biggest challenge in terms of building the trust overall. Yeah.
I see. So it's about education, building trust, getting the opportunity, and if I listen you correctly, it's about giving the service and the trust and everything builds together, right? Okay, on your specific business, farming, prawn, what will be your expansion plan?
So, as I said, we want to be the world-renowned leader in freshwater prawn farming, i.e. in terms of the brood stocks, because Malaysia, as I said, we already identified that it's originated from here. So if you take an example, you take champagne, it's been appellated by the French, but the South Australian produces sparkling wine, and you can't sell this as a champagne simply because we followed 3 criteria: geography, genetics, and process.
Yes.
I think the first 2 is self-evidentary for Malaysia, so we're building that process now in terms of traceability, in terms of how we diverse from the marine ingredients to produce like plant-based feed for the prawns, because they are very gifted nature, they're omnivorous, they can eat anything in the pond bottom, so the cost of production goes down, and we can term these prawns, eventually our game changer is going to be carbon neutral seafood, so carbonization. So that's all about branding. Of course, going forward, we're also going international. We already have a presence in Egypt. This year we just got a contract in India, and just last week we have going to have a project in Thailand as well.
So this project are merely selling, or what are the nature of the project? So
Malaysia is still going to be a center of excellence. There's not going to have any know-how in terms of the core technology. So we still going to play the role. So it's like Monsanto, they sell the seeds, and then they buy back they have the farmers, the customers still repeat the business. So this is where I think Malaysia has a lot of opportunity to scale up globally in terms of the brood stocks. So we give them the mother prawns to produce at large. But locally, this is where our next struggle to scale up the downstream. They disrupt the downstream because most of the farmers are an aging population.
Yeah.
So we want to bring the new blood in, new agripreneurs, but they need technology. They're not going to do the same old, take the chankol and chankol the stuff, right? So this is where we are struggling to make the ecosystem lucrative enough and also sustainable, and also it has the IR 4.0 in terms of technology itself, yeah.
So adopting technology as well. Justin, how about your experience in terms of expand it beyond the local market?
I think when it comes to expansion regionally, we always, because I mean as startups, we have limited resources, right? Limited budget, limited marketing budget as well. So definitely we will study what are the markets and countries that we want to enter, because we need to pick the low-hanging fruit first before we enter into like countries that are having slightly lower awareness in terms of plant-based food, sustainability kind of aspect. So definitely we will look into countries where the adoption of plant-based food and awareness is higher, such as Hong Kong, Singapore, Brunei, and so on. So then only we drew down in terms of, we pick probably like 2 or 3 countries that we want to enter. Then from there, we probably will look for a local partner to partner with. I think there's a more sensible way and faster way to penetrate the market, because I think if you want to build from scratch your operation and stuff, it's going to take a long time, and your competitor is probably use this time to catch up with you. So you don't want to avoid that, and you want to leverage on each other's strength. So you are the producer of the pea milk, and you need to have a distributor or partner that really know the market much better than you, and can really run the operation much more efficient than you to penetrate the market. So I think these are the key 2 factors that I would consider whenever we enter a new market. So far, we are currently available in Brunei and Singapore, and we do receive quite a few interests in other Asia-Pacific regions, such as Hong Kong, Taiwan, and so on. So definitely, this will be the main markets that we will be targeting, in the sense that we know people are actually asking for it. Means that there's a demand for such products in their region.
Okay, so having a good partners, a strategic partner, is really key of your expansion.
And very selective in the countries that you want to enter.
Arif, you said you have a global must have a global mindset from the start. So what have you achieved so far in your journey in terms of expansion beyond the Malaysian border?
All right. Since 2017, we've been selected and been approached by TechCrunch Berlin. TechCrunch is basically a known tech conference in the world. And we went to Berlin, and basically, since the products is pretty much needed in terms of any businesses that utilize the cloud computing, they need to manage multiple clouds and everything. So expansion is all about understanding your segment. For the first 2 years, we are focusing on small agencies, startups, software house companies. Even from there, we receive a lot of partnership requests from the hosting companies, local and global. So so far, within 3 to 4 years running the company, I went to Silicon Valley, represent Malaysian tech startups. 2018, we are regional winner, and then we compete with 28 startups all over the world. It's one of the great achievements. And then Web Panel of the Year 2021 by W3 Techs. And since majorly our customer base are coming from US and European countries, Malaysia as well still have a strong user base. The strategy is we are planning towards globalizations, means global plus localized. So we are going to June, inshallah, to Porto, Portugal, because we have many users in Portuguese, and in within 1 or 2 years we are maybe look for a multi-language, because we have French users, Dutch, Spanish, all right? So we will make it our products more localized, and then that is for enterprise segment. At the same time, we already recently launched, which is the Run Cloud Education. So we wanted to give the awareness and the knowledge of cloud computing. It's not only for software developers, but for anyone. Justin, Zaki, or you about cloud computing, because cloud computing is all about understanding businesses and scaling, because every industry utilize it. If you don't understand about cloud computing, is there difficulties because you are the decision maker, right? So this is where we already been recognized by MBOT, Malaysia Board of Technologies. Yeah. We can certify for professional certification in cloud computing segment, around cloud education. That's all.
Wow, that's impressive. So in how many countries are people using your solution right now? How many countries?
To be exact, 110 and 11, I guess.
Wow. Wow. Mr. Zaki, what are the experiences that you can share in terms of beyond Malaysian borders?
Establishing presence in
Yes.
outside of Malaysia.
Yeah.
Well, off my head, I have 4 steps that I undertake before actually going into any country, because our line of business is a little bit different. So the first step, we always go into a new country when there is an inquiry, when there is a requirement, there is a request from the client, only then we go. Second step, I spend a lot of time trying to understand the local statutory requirements of that country, whether it's legal, whether it's banking, human resource. I spend some time to understand it personally, what I'm getting into. Third, I get the best help that I can afford, whether it's legal help from a lawyer, a notarius, company secretary, or consultant. Get hired help to establish the presence. And final, which I feel is very good for me, which I do it most of the time, is I partner with a local partner. I partner with somebody local, because knowing the local scenario, the local culture is very different, knowing it and actually living in it. So these are the 4 steps that I take before establishing and getting into a new region.
Like Arif mentioned, what was the word? I mean, globalization.
I'm not sure, but
yes.
maybe just
That's
my
a,
term, because
that's
I
a new
try to
term that I
combine.
learned today.
I try to combine global and localized.
Global, like a globe. Okay. Okay, in terms of, got a market, you expanded and whatever. Along the way, right, funding and continuous funding is always within the equation, right, in everyone's mind. Where do my next round will come in, when and where? So, fine, I know that the requirement of resources in terms of money is there, but what else are you looking at in terms of accepting that particular check, right? What else are you looking for in an investor apart from the money that they're going to give you? And money is fine, but then what else? What value add do you think an investor, especially on your growth mode? I mean, at early stage it's easy, right? Early stage it would be grant, a bit of seed funding. But in terms of expansion, what else are you looking at apart from money? Yeah, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think strategic partners are critical as we expand, because what we know in the value chain, we can't be doing everything ourselves. For instance, now we are making the live prawn deliveries in Kuala Lumpur, and that takes a different skill sets, you know, in terms of logistics, supply chain. So as we move on in the value chain, I think the critical thing we look into more than money, what the partner or the strategic partner can bring in terms of value. And as I said, expanding overseas as well. We also work with the local partners, because as a small company, we don't want to go and reinvent the wheel and spending all the money. And then as I said, working with different partners, I think critical. But since you mentioned about funding, I think I have to admit this. In Malaysia, the funding ecosystem in terms of food security or food technology, or even we take this as agri-tech, the understanding is still quite shallow. You know, people, when we say agri-tech, people talk about vertical farming and so forth. Say vertical farming, yeah, is good and interesting, but it's not going to solve the food security issue. It's not going to produce all the food the Malaysians need, which is 60 billion ringgit worth of food. And there's a lot of rush or jump into the bandwagon of so many e-commerce platforms. There's so many, but then the question we have to ask, we are importing 60 billion ringgit of food, and why we are creating so many e-commerce platforms and there's not enough food to sell locally. So I think because during the early stage of, as you mentioned, that we are seed funded by the local, the government institutions, and going forward, I think the VCs and the rest of the funding partners need to take food as serious, or climate change as serious, because food and table matters, I think.
True, that is very true. Justin, what else are you looking at apart apart from funding, I mean, what
Yeah.
an investor should
I
bring?
always see fundraising or getting investors into the company is like a marriage.
Yeah.
So you need to
Definitely.
get it right at the beginning, because if not, things will get messy or whatsoever. So I think having the common goal is the first step, in the sense that the investor or the VC or whatsoever, they really have to share the same goal as you. They really have to believe in what you are pursuing. So that's one thing. Another thing I would look for, definitely money. I think if everyone looking for money, I think the cheapest way is always go to the bank. I think that they offer the cheapest in terms of the interest rate or return they expect. So in terms of investor, always look for the value add. So from our experience, I think the value add that because we just closed our Series A funding, so the value add we observe that we experience so far is the network that they have, because like VC, they have invested in so many companies, and all these companies are from different backgrounds, so they will know that what kind of things that will be applicable in our industry and recommend to us, to these people that we never have wouldn't have come across without the investor. So I think that's very important, so that we can see, observe how other of their investing companies doing in terms of marketing, in terms of their operation, in terms of their financing, and apply it in our industry, in our company, so we can grow and accelerate the growth process of the company. I think that's very important.
Okay, okay. Totally get you. Arif, anything for you to share in terms of what are you looking at in terms of getting the investment in?
Yeah, as of me, I think pretty much same as Justin. It's all about, yes, the value add, what kind of things can be put on the table, and the investor need to really understand our vision, need to sing well, right? Because most of the time when I see founders, they get an investor at a very early stage, whenever the vision is not at the same thing between founders and investors, is always at a broken stage, right? So what I see is always, yes, same as Justin, again, networking. And the value added must be at always this being strategic and exponential growth stage, right? So having investor, they need to put as much as value to the startups that they invested in, and it's always at what kind of the exponential growth strategy that they can help, right? As of RunCloud, they say we are going to full-fledged in terms of making RunCloud brand and awareness in the US, right? So we receive a few approaches from non-VC from Silicon Valley, like Sequoia, Insight Partners and everything, but the thing is, maybe our criteria, at that time in 2018, we are too early. So I decided to not receive any international VC yet. But now whenever you are ready, so sometimes I want to advise to founders out there, maybe, because don't too eager and chasing money, investor money, because you need to understand your current stage, how well your products. If you try to being very aggressive and exponential stage where your product at the broken, so it could be a major disaster for yourself. All right. So for us, we come and try to expand our user base first, and the product making more solid. We have a security team and everything. So then we meet and re-engage with all the investors. They are actually ready for our next growth stage. Yeah, I think it's all about the value added and your understanding in the current stage. Yeah.
Zaki, is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, maybe my industry is a little different from everyone else here, or maybe I've been looking at the wrong places, because I hardly find any funder, VC, or investor that wants to see my values. Everybody wants to see the bottom line, so maybe I'm looking at the wrong place, you know. So I mean, I can write a book about trying to get funding and how many times you've been rejected and all that. But for us, how I looked at it over the many years of fundraising that we went through, the key for us is sustainability. The investor wants to see that when they put in money, how long can you guys sustain without looking for any other fund or till the next fund? It's about the business plan must hold water as its own, without grant money, without any other money, with just the money that is being sought after. So sustainability is a key. And for us to develop a sustainability plan, suddenly we require more money. But it is what they want. So we were always going for the smaller fish, the smaller money, but we find it very difficult to sell values. But we went for a bigger amount, and we sold sustainability. And that's what got us funding. So my advice is, which I keep telling people, is make sure the business plan is sustainable. It can hold on its own, and that's when the funders will come.
So always stress on sustainability of the business. Okay. Now, as you grow, as you expand, as you venture into new market, you will face ultimately your team will grow, right? From a 2%, 3%, a very integrated team, now you have grown into a bigger size. How do you guys actually manage that? Quickly, can I start from you again, Zaki?
Okay, I always go, this is what my late father used to tell us, and which I keep telling. I have a big poster in my office. It states that it's the attitude, not the aptitude, that determines the altitude. So whenever I interview somebody, I always choose somebody with the right attitude, not with the right skill set. Skill set can be taught. Attitude is so difficult to change. So if they don't have the right attitude, they're not going to be part of my team. So that is my main criteria, attitude.
Attitude. The rest of the gentlemen, Arif?
Our team right now is quite distributed. So we mainly our HQ in Cyberjaya, all the developers are there, and we also have the developers in Jakarta and in New Mexico, our executive in London, and then in Mumbai. So currently we are still, I would say, small teams.
How big is your team now?
25 members.
25 across how many countries?
3 countries.
3 countries.
All right. So then, like Zaki strongly agreed, 100%, 1000% is attitude, because remote culture is all about getting a trust for each members. It's not about you can code the software, because everyone can do coding nowadays. So it's all about being flexible, and they can deliver, and they can trust the leader, and the communication is very, very key. So even in this post-pandemic, communication on like Slack, maybe Telegram or WhatsApp need to be very responsive, and it cannot be at the I always give directions in Malaysian teams. Cannot put your style in WhatsApp, very casual for global members, because we need to be very professional. Make it as organizations, and make it very proper whenever it comes to conversations. So that's all.
Okay, good advice there. Okay, we are but running out of time. I was made aware that we are running out of time. I want to go around, and then what is the key advice that you can advise our listener out there who want to embark on this journey of entrepreneurship and startups and building their own business? Steve, Jiva?
I think experience takes it all. So it's just coming out from college, you want to start a startup. Probably it's not everybody is Mark Zuckerberg. So I think you have to work and learn a culture of organization, and it takes you to build a company, good company.
Yeah. Okay. Justin, what would you advise?
I think I read an article about this. Like there's a survey they done to ask about what's the one key factor that makes or breaks a company or a business. What is the one key factor that make a company successful? And to my surprise, the answer was timing of entry. So if back to the question, you don't want to be too early to the market in the sense that there's no awareness. You are the first. You need to do a lot of marketing, education, and there are no other players in the market doing the education together with you. But you also wouldn't want to be too late to the party when the competition is getting fierce and you are just being seen as a copycat or just a small player in the market. So the timing is very, very important. So you need to know when to, for each market, timing are different. So you need to make sure you know what's the right timing to enter each of the market.
Be vigilant and then get your timing right. Arif, any last word of advice?
Alright, my advice to all the founders out there, be realistic. And basically need to have a strong growth mindset and don't be a fixed mindset. So, alright, so I think because most of founders, they are very eager, passionate, but at last, whenever they feel down, and the mindset is not strong, so they may be at the depressions and something like that. So whenever you want to jump into this journey, be an entrepreneur, so need to have a growth mindset and you need to be strong that you don't have get salary for the first 2 years, something like that.
Okay. Mr. Zaki,
okay.
last
thing is, first of all, you getting into entrepreneurship, build a safety net and always never be afraid to fail.
Build a safety net.
And never be afraid to fail.
Okay.
That's all I can say.
All right, good. Okay, I'm afraid that's all the time that we have for our forum. Thank you very much for tuning in. For those who are being inspired by this forum and wanted to start your journey in terms of entrepreneurship and startup, please reach out to, there's a lot of agency out there. You can reach out to Cradle. There will be a lot of new things coming from Cradle recently, so make sure you get tuned into our social media and at the same time visit our platform, www.mystartup.gov.my, to learn more about startups. And then of course, we would be very, very interested to be part of your journey like what we have done for all these startups here today. All right, so I think that's all the time we have, and I thank you very much for the distinguished speakers today, and then I hope to see you guys very soon again. Okay, it's not a goodbye, but then till we meet again. Bye.
Big thank you to Dr. Ng and his panel for the very in-depth conversation. I hope you benefited from their sharing. Seterusnya ingin saya kongsikan berkaitan dengan program pemangkin usahawan sosial hebat atau PUSH, di mana seterusnya akan dibawakan satu sesi perkongsian mengenai program pemangkin usahawan sosial hebat ini dan juga impak sosial yang dihasilkan menerusi program ini bagi memperkasakan kumpulan sasar B40 dari kalangan keluarga Malaysia. Hasil perkongsian sesi ini juga akan digunakan untuk tujuan penambahbaikan program usahawan sosial di masa akan datang. Sharing session ini akan bermula sebentar sahaja lagi dan terhad kepada pemegang taruh yang telah dikenal pasti. Siapa yang telah pun mendaftar dipohon untuk ke halaman utama dan klik pada sharing session push. Seterusnya anda akan dibawa ke link Zoom dan sila sekali lagi masuk ke passcode untuk menyertai sesi ini. Passcode tersebut telah pun dikongsikan ketika proses pendaftaran. Seterusnya, para hadirin sekalian, ingin kami kongsikan berkaitan dengan program-program menarik yang akan dibawakan menerusi platform ini esok, 11 hari bulan Mac. Pertama sekali akan kami bawakan Advancing Sustainability Agenda through Innovation melalui Meranti. Dan kita akan bawakan perbincangan sekali lagi mengetengahkan kejayaan usahawan-usahawan sosial dan bagaimana untuk merangka perniagaan yang berasaskan keusahawanan sosial anda sendiri. Seterusnya, mari menggapai kejayaan bersama MCY. Satu sesi perkongsian kejayaan teknopreneur tempatan melalui MCY akan juga dibawakan kepada anda bersama dengan beberapa teknopreneur yang telah berjaya dan ada di antara mereka yang merupakan pemenang anugerah MCY. Seterusnya, satu lagi topik yang menarik, a talk on bringing Malaysia's products and services to the global market with Martrade. We'll have Encik Nur Azman Adam to share with you of how to take your business global. Dan turut akan disampaikan sijil penyertaan MCY dan anugerah Juruteknik Sains Negara. Majlis penyampaian itu turut akan dijalankan secara maya beserta dengan upacara penutup rasmi. Seterusnya, kepada anda yang terus setia bersama kami, jangan lepaskan peluang juga untuk berinteraksi melalui kuis dan juga sila kemukakan sebarang soalan kepada pihak sekretariat sekiranya ada. Sekiranya anda mengalami sebarang gangguan teknikal semasa perjalanan majlis secara maya ini, pastikan anda juga terus berhubung bersama dengan kami untuk dapatkan bantuan dengan kadar yang segera bagi mengatasi masalah teknikal anda. Dengan itu, terima kasih kepada anda yang telah setia bersama kami sejak awal pagi tadi menerusi platform maya ini. Kita akan berjumpa lagi esok 11 hari bulan Mac. Terima kasih.